Guys, those who are tuned in to watch this, Rajesh has got more than 20 years of experience in the industry. He has done more than 50 certification around in cybersecurity and the field of risk and compliance. He has also wrote couple of books that could give you a lot of education if you are just starting. So very fortunate to speak someone who brings that kind of experience and not just the theoretical but the practical exposure. And I have known Rajesh for I think more than 13 years now.
Yeah.
We have been together in our career early back in Barclays days. So Rajesh, thank you so much for taking out time and so that we could record this.
Hey, thanks. All thanks to you, Manoj. I mean, let me be very honest. I wanted to be on camera 15 years back. I shared this incident with you as well. Like when I was into manual testing, fired from a job, looking for another job, preparing for test automation. I was into manual testing and then wanted to move into test automation that time. And once I moved into automation and it changed my life for good. So since then I thought, why shouldn't I teach how to get into test automation, how to write script, how to create a test automation framework and all those things. And I thought I should do it. But when I started recording myself, I realized that I cannot face camera. I'm so not natural when I'm facing the camera. And I dropped that idea. And I kept thinking it every time I made a career move. Like I remember when I did my first cybersecurity certification, CISS, that was quite a journey and it changed my life forever. I'll be very honest with you. Maybe I'll share that journey some other time, but yeah, it changed it. And since then again I started thinking, hey, why shouldn't I create my own YouTube channel, start teaching people? Because I'm at core of my heart, I'm a teacher, I'm a trainer,
Yeah.
I'm a mentor, right? So I thought, why shouldn't I do it? And then I realized, my god, it's the same problem again. I cannot face camera, I cannot record and hear myself again. And there were so many preconceived notions, so that didn't happen, right? And then it was, of course, my best friend Manoj who forced me to come onto camera and talk about it so that others can benefit from it. So yeah, thank you so much, Manoj. Pleasure to be on your podcast.
Yeah, thanks, Rajesh. And I think, every time Destiny has their own plan. So I think Destiny wanted you to come on the camera or on the YouTube via me. And I think it was written long back. We were just waiting for the right opportunity.
We were.
So, Rajesh, having spent so much of time, now you're also building and leading Artan Consulting, helping companies. So, Rajesh, let's talk about the very basic nuance of the risk and compliance. Like, what do you think that what, if you had to explain the risk and compliance to someone who has never heard about it? And the reason I'm asking it, while I'm building Narad.io, even best of the VCs do not understand risk and compliance and cybersecurity. When I talk to them, when I pitch them what I'm building, they are like, is it the big problem enough? What you're solving? So Rajesh, how you would explain cybersecurity or risk and compliance to someone who is very new to these terms and who has never heard about it?
My goodness. Let me think about it. See, the problem is the word itself. Like there are few words which are so heavy that when you hear about it, you just don't want to talk about it because you think it will be so difficult or tough to understand. But if I want to explain it to you or any, not to you but to any common person who doesn't know about it, in simple way, right? When we are growing up, there are few rules that we follow. Either somebody tells us or we know that if we don't do it, it may harm us, right? For example, we're hearing from our parents that, okay, you shouldn't be doing this or you shouldn't be doing that. To give you a context, you should not speak lie to your teachers or your parents, right? There are certain ground rules which are set from the childhood, right? When you are
Yeah.
crossing the road, your parents or teachers will tell you that, okay, when it is red, it is sorry, when it is orange, it is not that you need to quickly cross the road, but rather you stop, think and wait for the green light to come out, right? What could be the risk if we break those rules, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And
So
exactly the
Rajesh,
same.
you just sorry to cut you there, but I think you mentioned one word that what could be the risk. What is the risk? Like, for example, if I say for myself, if I don't study well, the risk is I might not do good in my career. That's
Correct.
the risk. But if I think from the business perspective, and I'm just starting, I'm just starting a new technology business. If I don't put governance in place, or if I don't put the right cybersecurity structure in place, what is the risk?
Okay, so risk is exactly the same thing which you talked about. If you don't study, you will fail. So failing is an impact, right? And
Yeah.
if you don't read or you don't
Hmm.
study, so what is the probability that you are not going to study or you're not going to read or prepare for the exam, right? So that
Hmm.
probability of something happening and its impact on the organization is risk.
Hmm.
Now, this impact could be both positive and negative. ISO may define risk positively and negatively, while other frameworks may just talk about risk in a negative sense. But
Hmm.
probability of an event occurring and its impact on the organization. For example, if you don't have any firewalls installed, for example, right, or you are using a weak password in your home router, any intruder can get in easily. So it increases your probability, right?
Hmm.
If they get in, what could be the impact? If it is your home router and your laptop does not have any sensitive information, fine, no impact or less impact. But if your laptop is everything to you, you have all your sensitive confidential data stored on your laptop, and your laptop gets compromised because of that, somebody getting into your network
Hmm.
because of that weak password, that's the huge impact, right? So that's a higher risk if the asset has the value. So it depends on how much valuable assets, how much value your asset has for you.
Okay. So does it mean my risk is directly proportional to the value of assets I am carrying, or my infrastructure is carrying? Correct, Rajesh?
I would say risk is directly proportional to the controls that you have in place, right? So, for
Hmm.
example, if you don't have any controls in place, the risk is higher. If you have certain controls in place, risk is moderate. If you have
Hmm.
sufficient controls, risk is minimal or less.
Got it.
Yeah.
So, Rajesh, are controls specific to this technology control, like firewalls and everything? Is that all?
No, when we talk about controls, we are essentially talking about all aspects of doing the business. And when you talk about
Hmm.
all the aspects of doing the business, you talk about people, process, and technology, all three. Risk can originate
Ah.
from anywhere, right? Your employees, the processes that you follow, like hiring somebody, right? And the technology that you're using.
So you were saying risk can come from anywhere. It
Oh.
can be the people, those who we work, or it are the processes that we follow day in, day out, or the technology infrastructure. Now, Rajesh, now talking about people specifically, and the reason I want to talk about this because that is the problem we are solving at Narad. When we talk about the people, it's not just the internal team, those who we work with. There are a lot of external team members we work with that they could be our vendors, they could be our suppliers, they could be partners. So, how do we make sure that all these external people, where we do not have enough control to make sure what they are doing in, day out, how do we take care of that risk?
Okay, so there is no one perfect answer to it, right? And everything goes back to your basics, fundamentals of security, right? And when I
Hmm.
talk about fundamentals of security, I'm talking about bare minimum requirements in terms of cybersecurity. For example, layer over layer, right? That's the most basic thing which we have learned from not just last couple of years or so, but like
Hmm.
for ages, right? Even if you look at, like, when I go and deliver any trainings, generally the first example that I try to give is a fort, right? Now if you look at the fort, and not necessarily you go and visit, but if you have seen those forts in movies in various parts of the world, based on the geography, at some places you will find fort is surrounded by some water bodies. In some
Hmm.
places, in other places where it is a mountainous region, you will see that the forts have been built on like the highest mountain or something which is like elevated from the normal ground level, right?
Difficult to
So
reach.
exactly. So what they are trying to do is trying to put some layers around security. So when it is surrounded by water, there is a control there. There is a layer of control, right? Then once you are getting inside, there is a huge gates or walls, that you have to cross in order to get into that fort, right? So that's another layer. Then somebody will ask you, do you have some card or maybe some badge that can prove your identity? That's another layer. So that's the fundamental of any question related to cybersecurity. I mean, and if you can apply that theory to any such implementation, it makes your life easier. So to answer your question, when it comes to the third party risk management or managing these, of course, internal as well as external vendors, contractors, and other third parties, again, layering of control is the key. So maybe you have some background check. You get some what do you call it, pre onboarding check done, right?
Yeah.
Before you onboard any vendor, like, have you done this, have you done this, like the kind of problem you are trying to solve with Narad, right?
Yeah.
And that's so, I would say, relevant in today's sense, right? Because you cannot blindly trust anyone when you are into business. When we were starting business, even we have made our own wrong choices and suffered, right? So you cannot
Yeah.
just, because there are hundreds or thousands of companies out there, whom would you trust for your most valuable information assets, right? So what you do is basically try to build this layer of controls. One could be doing these questionnaires, asking them the right question, and that's so important, right? Just today morning I was having this discussion with one of the clients, and I'm helping them implement ISO 27001 for their organization. And lady said, Raj, I sent this questionnaire to the vendor, and he says, no, we cannot share any of the VAPT reports with you. In the last, we remember we got it done in 2021. Doing VAPT in today's time, 3 years back, and still trying to make it relevant will help? No, it won't. Right. So when you ask the right questions, you get some information that can help you, identify the third party or their security posture.
So, Raja, I think you very rightly touched upon this background check and the InfoSec assessment, because this is something people do in, day out. For example, I always give them the example. Let's say you're applying for a visa to any country, and the first thing that you will receive might be a short form or a long form, depending on the country you're applying. And that form or that Excel file or that questionnaire is nothing but checking your background or checking your stature enough that can you be allowed to enter into a country. That's nothing but a background check of yours, a screening of yours. And that's the same thing the big companies do when they try to get connected with you as a vendor or supplier, just to make sure that do you have the right security frameworks in place. So though we do this always, but when it comes to the technology world, when we say like security assessment and info security questionnaire, that's where we get confused, and we are like, what are these heavy jargons we are talking about? You talked about one thing is the ISO, and again, because I know that's one of your core business proposition that you offer as a part of the Artan. So Rajesh, what you do when you say that you help companies in the ISO? Again, it's as a very self-served framework that people could go and read and understand and try to implement, might be by themselves. So what is that value proposition that you bring into the picture when you go and join as a consultant and you try to explain them and implement ISO for their company?
I mean, thank you for asking that question, because it relates to where my journey as a security consultant started, right? So it was almost 12 years back, I think, when we were working with the bank, and we were all asked to, leave the company where we worked for almost 4 or 5 years. And that was quite a shocking, right? That was quite shocking. So then I decided that probably this is happening the last time that some company is firing me. Next time, I'll not be in a situation where somebody can fire me, or at least even if somebody fires me, I should be in a situation to do something of my own and not completely rely on a job per se, right?
Yeah.
And that's where my real certification or learning journey began. But and then it kept going, and as you said, right, I went up to like 55, 60 certification now. But today, if somebody comes to me and asks, hey Rajesh, which is the best certification in cybersecurity, which one should I go for, and why should I do certain certification, I always tell them certifications are useless.
Are
It's
you
just,
serious, Ajay?
I'm damn serious about it. Certifications are useless.
And before I go, how much money you would have spent so far?
Of course, I would have bought a 3 BHK in India. So yeah, that, because see, no good certification is below 700-800 US dollars, right? And
Yeah.
it's a huge money. And then you have, on top of
Yeah.
that, you have to keep them active, renew it every year, and that's such a pain when you are not making enough money to keep those active, right? So yeah,
Yeah.
just to answer your question, I always tell them, see, certifications are useless unless you can back it up with the right knowledge that justifies having that certification. Now, you may
Agree.
ask me how somebody can justify, let's say I'm not an auditor. I'm not an auditor, but I went for CISA. Now, will CISA help me? Maybe it depends on luck and whom you are in contact with in the industry, right? But let's say if you don't have a godfather, if you don't know anybody whom you think is going to help you in growing into that ladder, then of course it is not going to help you. There are very less chances that then you will get into another certification and another certification and another certification, and you will still at the end of the day you'll get frustrated. So what you need to do
Hmm.
is back it up with the right knowledge that you have to have. Tomorrow if you lose your job, you must be ready to work as a freelancer, as a consultant, as a auditor or whatever, but you have to have that kind of experience or knowledge. Now getting that knowledge along with your job is not impossible. There are ways of doing it. Maybe we can have another
Yeah.
podcast on that. But yes, your certification has to be backed by your knowledge and knowledge that shows your demonstrates your
Yeah.
skills on the ground, right? Now to answer your question, how ISO helps. So if you send me a questionnaire, let's say if you want to hire me as a security consulting firm, but
Yeah.
you are dealing with some information which is very critical to you. If that
Hmm.
information gets into wrong hand, your entire business can be jeopardized, right? So
Hmm.
in that case, you would want to make sure that the company that you're hiring has best security controls in place, have hired best people in the world, and can secure your information. Now, one of the ways doing it is like talking to the person and sharing some questionnaire, as you rightly said, getting them filled. But then how do you make sure that the answer that they are giving is the correct answer, right?
Hmm.
Let's say they talk about VAPT. You ask the question, do you conduct VAPT? And they said yes. But you did not ask the next question, when was the last VAPT conducted, right?
Hmm.
Then it defeats the purpose of having that questionnaire, right? Now, if I have ISO as a small company or a small medium, or see, large organization, they don't need any certification. We know you all want to work for Google, Barclays, JP Morgan, RBS and whatnot, right? But for SMEs, SMBs, startups, unless they have that certification, and certification proves that some third party came in, audited you,
Yeah.
and audited you on certain checklists that you are following, and they
Yeah.
verified that you will continue to improve, and you are addressing the gaps in your security to improve continuously.
Hmm.
That's where you get that confidence that okay, if the company has gone through ISO certification or SOC 2 certification or any such certifications, it has
Hmm.
bare minimum required security in place, and that security is reviewed on a quarterly or a annual or monthly basis, and the
Hmm.
company is improving its security posture with every passing day, because continuous
Hmm.
improvement is one of the key factors in ISO, right? But at the same time, I would like to highlight one very important point, because you are a startup, you are a small medium business, you have limited resources, and you do not want to spend those limited resources into getting something which is fishy. Let me
Hmm.
share one example. I called up to a few companies, and
Yeah.
because I wanted to get ISO certification for my own company, even though I'm a consultant,
Yeah.
I'm helping other companies implement ISO. But the guy
Yes.
said, we only, you just need to pay like 35,000, 50,000, and we can issue you ISO certification. Now, do you think that is going to help me? It is not, because when I'm asked when is the last VAPT done, and I won't have answer to that question,
Yeah.
because I just bought the certification, right? So you
Got
have
it.
to be very careful you whom you are getting engaged with.
Got it. Got it. No, I think that's a very deep dive because I think it happens a lot to us, while building Narad. Whenever we reach out to the big clients, they are like, "Do you have the certifications?" We don't have it yet, but we get too much into it that let's get it. Let's try to find the easiest way of getting it.
Right.
And but I think now when you said that even if I get it by paying some wrong money or anyone, I think that's not going to serve the purpose. And I think that's where the specialists like you come into picture that what needs to be done. Rajesh, will you, let's say if a new student is starting today in this field and still very confused how to build the career, what is the first certification you would recommend him or her that okay, this is where you can start?
Okay, so I'll answer that question, but to back my answer up, I'll also give you some example first. So, for
Yeah.
example, today, if anybody joins Artan, right, we are four in Singapore and three in India. But anybody who joins Artan, even before they join us, initial 2, 3 months, we share some URLs, some certifications with them, right? And we ask them to first go for those certifications, complete all the trainings, and then come prepared for the interview, right? And all those certifications and trainings which we share with them are freely available on the internet. So what we are trying to see here is how much interested that person is. What is his his way I mean, what does he think about the learning? How much importance does he or she gives to learning, right? So that's what we are trying to do. Now, once they join in and they are put into various programs to upskill them onto various jobs. So for the students also, I'll suggest, I mean, even if you don't have money, right, to spend on certification, because I know certifications are quite expensive, right?
Expensive. Yeah.
If there are good certification, no certification comes below 700 US dollars, right? So
Right.
what you can do is there are certain certifications freely available from ISC Square. Let's say there is one certification called CC, Certified in Cybersecurity. There are also free certifications available from ISACA and some other organizations as well. So just explore internet, use ChatGPT, try to find out some free certification in your area of interest. Let's say if you want to, but these are, of course, which I mentioned are the basic one, which every students, whether he is into cybersecurity, whether he wants to get into cybersecurity or not, is a different question. Even if he is in I want to do any job after the college, marketing, sales, or whatever, he must go for CCs, certified in cybersecurity. I can't emphasize it enough.
Got it, got it. So what you're saying, Rajesh, like there are a lot of free resources and certifications available, good enough to start the career. And I think the rest, the paid ones, the expensive ones, can follow the pursuit depending on what kind of interest a person has. And
Exactly.
also, Rajesh, you mentioned something like so when you hire people, because there was a time like when we were looking for job, but now today is a time we have spent some time in the industry, and now when we are hiring, do you look at the certifications as a benchmark when you hire people?
Not necessarily. What we look at is, I mean, of course, if let's say again, it depends on scenario to scenario and the kind of job that we are hiring for,
Yeah,
right? If we are hiring freshers, of course, we are not expecting so many certifications from them. But what we
yeah,
are looking at is how many internships they have done. Right. And most importantly, even if we hire somebody for initial 3 months, what we look at is how much flexible this person is whom we have hired. Today, if we have ISO related, ISO implementation related work, is he able to contribute? If we have a VAPT related assignment, is he able to contribute? If we have to build some slide presentations to be sent to the clients, is he willing to contribute? If he does not know it, so if he doesn't know it, is he willing to take one step ahead and learn about it? Right.
got
So
it.
that attitude is the first thing that we look at.
So I think the basic nuances still remains the same, irrespective of the cybersecurity field or irrespective of the certification. The proactiveness, the attitude, the willingness to to step up and put the sleeves up when the things get dirty. I think this is something I always because I also being in the startup, a lot of youngsters reach out that what should be done, and I'm like, attitude is what matters. That if you have the right attitude,
Exactly.
probably you'll get the job done. But if
Exactly.
the attitude is not right, irrespective of what the education you have, is not going to help you in the long run. Just one last most important thing, Rajesh. That's just to keep this conversation on the lighter side. There are already so many books being written. Why you had to write one?
Okay, it's an interesting journey. Maybe again we'll talk about it in detail some other time. But even when I was a kid, I used to write a lot, and I loved writing. When I was preparing for these certifications, right? I always wanted to, I mean, create those notes, and I always thought my notes are the most simplest form of this book.
Yeah.
So I continued that journey. Whatever notes I wrote during my preparation, right? I kept writing those into Google email drafts or MS Word or Google Doc or whatever. And after a certain time, what happens is you have plethora of notes collected, and you just want to put it into order, which is easy enough for anyone to understand and apply. And that's what I did. So my recent book, if you know about it, Manoj, Cybersecurity Super Book, Fundamentals to Advanced, right? So the
Yeah.
book is all about those people who are into IT and they want to get into cybersecurity, or
Yeah.
students who wants to make a move into cybersecurity. So what are those core fundamentals that you need to know to make a successful, not just the career, but the successful career in cybersecurity. There is a lot of hoo-ha that there are a lot of jobs in cybersecurity and you are always being paid heavily in cybersecurity.
Yeah. Is
People
that
don't
true?
know the reality. Ask me and I'll tell you the stories, right? So you have to be prepared in terms of knowing the basics first before you take any
Yeah.
step. So that's the thing that motivates me for writing these books.
Yeah, no, no. I think that's a very wise way of doing it, because I think all of us, when we start learning something, when we start putting implementing knowledge,
Right.
we take a lot of notes. But eventually, as we grow in our career, this notes get lost. And
Exactly.
I think this is a very good way of doing it, like, putting all the notes together, because that's what the purpose of the knowledge is. Like, when you have the tribal knowledge, it shouldn't go away. It should be stored somewhere. And I
Yep.
think probably that's the reason I do podcasts. Actually, so like the way you said you like writing, I don't know. I just like the switch on the camera. Let's talk about it.
See, Manoj,
So
what you are doing, sorry to cut you short, but what you are doing is an amazing job. You know why? When you go through tough time, when you have just lost your job, or
yeah,
maybe you just missed your promotion, you're not
yeah,
promoted, or whatever reason, right? There is always one thing nowadays you look into, and that's YouTube, right? And you try
yeah,
to find out that video which can change your life. And
yeah,
the same video that we are creating now, you never know is going to change someone's life somewhere,
yeah, yeah,
whether he
yeah,
remembers it or not, he or she, but it definitely impacts, right? Somebody knows
yeah.
about, okay, cyber security, certified in cyber security from ISC Square is a certification. Okay, he will Google it, maybe go through it, register it, and he'll develop the interest, and who knows where does it take
Yeah,
him.
yeah. No, actually, I'm going to put that in the chapter. This particular free certification, I'm going to put it in the chapter. So
Awesome.
if someone looks for it, he would find it. So, yeah, I think so, Rajesh, it was a great discussion. I think probably the most of the topics we touched upon, if a youngster is trying to, build his career in the cyber security, I think this particular episode, this particular podcast should be helpful. And I think the one nuance that you answered very well, that why should I hire an expert? And I think that clears a lot of air, that why to hire an expert. So thank you so much, Rajesh, for taking out time, and probably your first podcast. Looking forward to many more, because I think the more I'll speak to you, more I will have the knowledge. I might write books someday,
You
or might
must.
be I'll convert my podcast to the books.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Manoj. It was pleasure talking to you as always. Enjoyed it. I didn't think before I came here that I'll be able to speak in front of camera, but let me do it more. It gave me that confidence as well, right? So every day is a learning, and this was my first learning probably in terms of this space. Thank you so much for having me on the podcast. It was, as I said, it was a pleasure as always, and looking forward to having more discussions with you, Manoj. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure. Thank you so much, Rajesh. And guys, all of you, those who are watching or listening this podcast. So, guys, these are two boys coming from a very small town with not much of the major education, not much of the major family backings. But if we guys can break into the big enterprise roles at the organizations like Standard Chartered, Barclays, PwC, believe me, you can do it too, and that's not too tough. Only thing you need to do, keep the belief right, keep the head down, keep working, and like Rajesh do, get the right certification. Thank you so much, guys. Have a nice day ahead.
Thank you, Manoj. Sure.
Bye.
Bye.